Welcome back to Adams Academy. We've got another interesting player to talk about today, and that's Obi Toppin, the 6'9 forward of the Dayton Flyers. I'm going to make this brief. I didn't make this channel to be negative and, shine light on all the bad things players do because all these top prospects do things so well that it's really who can do these things just that much better. But there are a lot of negative factors into Obi Toppin's game that I think are being overlooked because of the flashy 360 dunks, the between the legs fast break dunk. That's all. That's awesome. The dunks are awesome. He's an awesome kid by all accounts that I've read and listened to. But his defense and his playmaking ability with the ball in his hand are both so suspect that you just cannot take a top 10 pick with that. He's the kind of player that you already have to have a team built and you just need to fill in a few more pieces. He's big. He has size. He's 6'9", 220-ish. He shoots 40% from the three. Most of those coming off of trail and the transition or the pick and pop. Both will translate beautifully to the NBA. I am not here to say that he will not be a fine NBA player. He can be a great role player, shoot the three, set some screens, but that's really all Obi Toppin's ever going to be able to do. He doesn't have a very good post-up game when he plays. There are games where he scores on the block, but you got to look at who he's playing. He plays in the Atlantic 10. It's already a kind of a weaker conference. It's got a couple of really top-heavy teams, and he thrives on backup centers and the 6 games I've watched so far. So there are things to look at beyond the numbers. He's averaging 20 points per game, 8 rebounds a game. But another thing I'll point out, and we'll talk about it during this, is his ability to rebound is very subpar. Part of that is sometimes he doesn't box out because he wants to run down and get a dunk. He did that 8 times in one game that I counted, allowed 3 offensive boards out of it, and his inability to close out is so strange. I don't know if he does it because he just truly forgets to close out, but he just runs and jumps every time. Against Rhode Island, he did it 3 times. Against VCU, their last game, he did it 2 or 3 times. And when he's on ball defending, he just can't move. He's got heavy feet. He's not there mentally. So there are a lot of negative things with Obi Toppin that I just can't, fathom taking a top 10 pick on him. Especially, most of these top 10 picks are rebuilding teams that don't have a team, a star, something to center it around. And Obi Toppin can't be that. He can be a great role player. His shooting can get him minutes in the NBA. I truly believe that. But in these video breakdowns, we'll break down his shooting. It's good. We'll break down some of his athletic ability with his dunks. But we're also going to highlight his defensive liability, his playmaking is suspect, and just kind of show you why he is a top 15 prospect, but top 10 just doesn't seem right. So anyway, let's break down the film. These first few clips we're going to watch are from the VCU game a couple weeks ago. He shows his inability to kind of understand what he's doing on the defensive side of the ball, and then he shows his lack of concentration, lack of effort. I don't know which one it is. I don't know if he truly doesn't understand what to do on defense or he just doesn't want to do it. And the thing I forgot to mention in the intro is he's already 22 years old. So it makes you worry, are these habits, caked into him? Can they be reversed? Secondly, players like Jason Tatum are just now 21 and, they're all-stars. So you're missing out on 3, sometimes 4 years if you go and draft someone like a LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, these young guys. But on the flip side, if you're a team that's ready to compete, you get a mature, older player. So there are positives and negatives to it, but being an older player kind of starts to drift you back into that back end of the draft because these are the teams that need mature veterans from college. But this first play right here, he turns the ball over, comes back on defense. I'll play it in full speed. He gets up in the air because the point guard just hesitated. Listen, I know Obi Toppin's not watching this, but a few things. If you are 6'9", with probably a 7-something wingspan, he's long, let him shoot that three, give him a step, just put a hand up. You cannot let him get a wide open layup on you. Your job as a big man is to protect the rim. Secondly, and this is something that is even more important. I should have mentioned this first. This is what I'm talking about with his inability to understand what's going on defense. Any good defender knows that if you're on a fast break and you got help, you have defenders back. There are 4 guys back. Dayton gets their butts back. And you've got a guard that's quicker than you that you're guarding. You cannot give him his dominant hand where there are also no help defenders. You need to get this left foot higher than the right foot, completely flip how your body is, get that left foot high, force him back into the middle. You've got 1, 2, 3 help defenders. You want to know how many you have if you let him go, baseline basically? 0. There are no people over here. And that's exactly what he does. He lets him get baseline side. No help defense. That center does a great job of sealing off. But he wouldn't have got sealed had he forced him back to the middle. And if he forces him back to the middle, you're going to either get the offense to pull back out, you're going to get this guy getting a shot off, which will be slightly contested by Mike Sell. But a 3-point shot is better than a 2-point shot. The most efficient shot in the history of basketball is the layup and the free throw. The 3-point's not nearly as efficient as people want to think. Force him to get the ball outside. The terrible play by Obi Toppin. I don't understand. That was awful. Awful basketball. This play, he gets switched off on a guard that's about 3 or 4 inches shorter than him. And he gets sucked. He lets him get underneath, gets sucked outside. So then he just tries to push him back underneath. Well, if you're going to push him underneath the rim, you need to get him under the rim. Even if he's right here, he can still get that board. He needs to be right here. So only you can get that board. But he gets lazy. I'm already beat. I'll just go for the long rebound. Gets the board. Doesn't score, but he gets an extra possession. That cannot happen to Obi Toppin. You're a big man. Your job is to get the rebound, protect the rim. So far, he's 0 for 2 in that category. Then this one, he just doesn't box out. He just doesn't box out. He puts an arm up. That's not a box out. He barely even checking him. He gets the tip out. They get an extra possession. That cannot happen. Cannot happen. So far he's 0 for 3 in understanding his duty and understanding the scouting report. And now this is the ugliest thing I've ever seen as a fan of basketball. I just cannot understand how this guy can be a top 5 pick for some people when he has great traits. His shooting, we've already talked about that. His dunking ability, awesome. His size is great. But his flaws are so glaring. This is a 12% 3-point shooter. A 12% 3-point shooter. He should not have taken one more step. Should have sat right there. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think Tristan Thompson and Andre Drummond have higher percentages than 12% 3-point career percentages. So instead of closing out short on the 12% 3-point shooter, he decides to come out here and jump and fall for the pump fake, which then leads to a wide open layup. I don't understand it. But I wrote down, mental mistake, mental error, get back in the game. Well, here we go. This is a 12% 3-point shooter. Does that sound familiar? It's the same guy. He falls for a... Dude, you're not guarding Luka Doncic. This guy's a 12% 3-point shooter. I know I sound like a broken record, but I can't put it through my damn head. He did it twice. After the first time, this guy right here is yelling blood vessels popping in his head. They had to be. As a coach, you understand the scouting report. You have to. And as a player, you need to know that scouting report forward and backwards. All 5 players on the court at once. You need to know what they're going to do. That's how you win. That's how you become great. He falls for the pump fake. Lets him get a step. Fouls him. Free throws. Yeah, that cannot happen. Now, since this has just been a rip fest so far, we're going to go to some of his positive traits. He's great in transition threes. He's great at running the floor. Often he looks like the fastest player on the court, and he can turn it off and on real quick. A lot of burst. His jumping ability is fantastic, which drives me even more nuts on the rebounding. But he does have some positive traits. He can pass out of the post pretty well when he gets double teamed. He won't get double teamed in the NBA though, so it doesn't matter. But